Ivo Kasson had been the head porter at Veldhouse for 31 years, and in that time he had watched 3 generations of the Velde firm move through the lobby like weather, fast, purposeful, and liable to change without warning. He had seen senior directors arrive with briefcases full of certainty and leave with considerably less. He had watched young men promoted past their abilities in a single afternoon and watched old men wait 20 years for the promotion they deserved. He had seen the current head of the firm, Mr. Dorian Velde, take his grandfather's chair at 38, and he had watched the lobby go quiet around Dorian Velde ever since. The way a room goes quiet when someone enters it who does not need to raise his voice. What Ivo had not seen in 31 years was a dispatch clerk solve in one afternoon what 4 senior aides could not solve in 3 days. He would think about that for a long time after. It began on a Tuesday with a missing cargo manifest. The manifest was a physical document, 6 pages, stamped and counterstamped, routed through the Velde Consortium's 6 regional sub-offices over the course of 8 months. Without it, a disputed settlement between 2 of the consortium's oldest partners could not be confirmed, and without that confirmation, some Ivo did not know the exact figure of, but which he gathered, from the expressions of the men involved, was significant, would sit frozen until someone found the original and not a copy, because only the original bore the sub-office counterstamps that the opposing counsel had specifically demanded. Dorian Velde had assigned the search on Saturday morning. By Tuesday, he had sent 4 aides. All 4 had returned to his 4th-floor office with the same answer. The manifest had been correctly filed, then transferred again, and the trail went cold somewhere between Sub-Office 4 and Sub-Office 5. Consortium's internal record system showed the document logged in and never logged out. It existed, somewhere, in a room full of other documents, in one of 6 buildings spread across the city. Ivo knew all of this because the 4 aides all passed through the lobby, and aides who had just delivered bad news to Dorian Velde had a particular way of walking out into the street, brisk, relieved, not looking back. He also knew, by Tuesday afternoon, that Dorian Velde had stopped scheduling other meetings. A man who stops scheduling meetings is a man who is waiting for something to break. In 31 years, Ivo had never seen Dorian Velde wait for anything. The waiting was worse than the urgency. He noticed the new dispatch clerk because she was in the lobby when she should not have been. It was 2:30. The dispatch clerks worked on the 2nd floor. They had no business in the lobby past 10 in the morning, unless they were collecting an incoming parcel or making a delivery run. This one, small, dark-haired, plainly dressed in the gray jacket all the junior clerks wore, was standing at the far end of the lobby beside the wall of internal post cubbies, with a sheet of paper in her hand and the look of someone doing arithmetic in her. Ivo had seen her perhaps 4 times before. Her name was on the 2nd floor directory, Nell Arbor, dispatch, 6 weeks in post. She had come in quietly and done her work quietly, and the only thing that distinguished her, in Ivo's experience, was that she was the only person on the 2nd floor who consistently returned the lobby's brass trolley to its proper position after using it. He had noticed that. No one else noticed things like that, which was, in his experience, precisely the problem. She was looking at the post cubbies. Then she was looking at her sheet of paper. Then she did something that Ivo found interesting. She turned the sheet over and wrote something on the back of it. Then she put it in her jacket pocket, said nothing, the internal staircase up. He did not think about it again for 2 hours. At 4:30, Nell Arbor came back down the internal staircase. She was carrying a document folder, the kind with the red binding that the consortium used for original legal instruments. She was not hurrying. She walked across the lobby at the same pace she always walked. It was the pace of someone who has learned not to telegraph urgency. And she stopped at the 4th floor lift. Not the staircase, the lift, which the junior clerks did not customarily use, and pressed the button and waited. Ivo watched this. The lift came. She wrote it up. Track it by the floor indicator above the doors. 2, 3, 4. It stopped at 4. The doors would have opened onto the corridor that led to Dorian Velde's office. It waited there for longer than a transit stop. Then it came back down, and the indicator settled at the ground floor. And the doors opened, and Nell Arbor stepped out. She was no longer carrying the red folder. She crossed the lobby toward the front door, unhurried. She was putting her coat on as she walked. One arm in, then the other, the way a person does when their first shift has ended and the evening is their own. Ivo Seltzer quietly, "Miss Arbor." She stopped. She looked at him, not startled, just attentive the way she always was. "The fourth floor," he said. He did not ask a question. He was not sure what he was saying. She understood him anyway. The manifest had been logged in at Sub-Office 4, she said, and transferred under a temporary routing code that the new system didn't recognize. So it sat in the physical transit queue at Sub-Office 3 without an address for 6 weeks. "I keep a handwritten routing card for the temporary codes. I made it when I started because the system didn't have them in the index yet." She paused. "Sub-Office 3 sent it up this afternoon." Ivo looked at her. "The codes weren't in the system," she said again, simply, as though this explained everything. Which it did. He nodded. She finished buttoning her coat and walked out into the early evening. Ivo stood in the lobby for a moment after the door closed behind her. Then he turned back to the front desk, and, for the next hour he did his work with the particular careful attention of someone who has just seen something he does not want to misremember. He found out the rest the following morning. Not from anyone who was supposed to tell him. Ivo was not in the chain of anything, but from the texture of the morning, which was its own kind of document, if you knew how to read it. The settlement meeting, which had been postponed twice, was rescheduled overnight for Thursday. The 4 senior aides who had passed through the lobby in the past 3 days all arrived that morning with brisk, forward-looking walk of men who have been told that the problem is solved, and they should not examine too closely how. The 4th floor corridor, which Ivo occasionally passed on his way to the document archive, was in its normal morning configuration. Doors closed, voices low, the quiet efficiency of a firm whose affairs were in order. And at 5 minutes past 9, Dorian Veld himself came down to the lobby. Ivo had seen Dorian Veld in the lobby perhaps 6 times in the last year. He did not come down for small reasons. He was a tall man, shouldered, with dark hair going silver at the temples, and the kind of stillness that meant he was always watching, even when he appeared to be waiting. He wore a charcoal suit the way other men wore a uniform. Not for presentation, but because he had long since stopped thinking about it. He moved through a room, and the room moved around him, making small adjustments, the way water moves around a pier. He stopped at the front desk. "Miss Arbor," he said. "Second floor dispatch," Ivo said. "She comes in at 9. She'll have signed in already." Dorian Veld nodded. He looked at the post cubbies for a moment. The same wall Nell Arbor had been studying the previous afternoon, and then he said, "She kept a handwritten routing card." "Yes," Ivo said, "because the system didn't have the temporary codes indexed. That's what she told me." Dorian Velda was quiet for a moment. Not the silence of a man thinking, he had already thought. This was the silence of a man arriving at something he has been moving toward for longer than he knew. "She's been here 6 weeks. 6 weeks and 2 days, Ivo said. Another pause then. "I'd like to speak with her." Ivo called up to the second floor. Duty supervisor, surprised audibly, said she would send Miss Arbor down directly. Dorian Veld said nothing more. He sat at the desk, with the easy stillness of a man who does not find waiting difficult. Ivo knew from experience was not the same as a man who does not mind it. He minded it. He had simply made his peace with it, for this particular morning. Nell Arbor came down the internal staircase 5 minutes later. She was wearing the same gray jacket. She had the same composed, attentive expression, the expression of someone who has decided in advance not to perform whatever is being expected of her. She stopped a correct professional distance from the desk. She looked at Dorian Veld without any of the adjustments people usually made when they looked at Dorian Veld. The slight squaring of the shoulders, flicker of recalibration, the effort of appearing unimpressed. She simply looked at him in the way that people look at other people they are prepared to listen to. "The routing card," he said. "You made it in your first week. The first 3 days," she said. "The temporary codes were in the physical transfer logs going back 18 months, but they weren't in the system index. I wrote them down so I wouldn't have to go back to the logs every time. None of the other dispatch clerks have one. I don't know what the other clerks have," she said. "I know what I needed." Dorian Veld looked at her for a moment. Ivo had seen him look at people before, at rivals, at council, at the men around his table who were supposed to be the best in the field. He had never seen him look at anyone the way he was looking at Nell Arbor, which was the way a man looks when the ground has shifted very slightly under his feet, and he is deciding whether to pretend otherwise. He did not pretend otherwise. The senior dispatch role is vacant, he said. It's been vacant for 2 months. We haven't found the right candidate. The role has direct sight lines into the routing system and a mandate to correct gaps in the index. He paused. I'd like to offer it to you. Nell Arbor was quiet for a moment. I'd want to know, she said, whether the mandate to correct gaps in the index is real or whether it means I file a request and wait. It means you correct them, he said. You send me a weekly summary of what you've found and what you've changed. Then yes, she said, I'll take it. That was all. No theater, no ceremony, no gratitude disproportionate to the moment. She asked the one question that mattered, got the one answer that mattered, and gave the one answer that mattered back. Dorian Velde said he would have the paperwork sent down that afternoon. She said that was fine. She took the internal staircase back up to the 2nd floor, and the lobby settled back into its Tuesday morning order, and Dorian Veld stood at the desk for a moment after she had gone. He was looking at the post cubbies again, the wall of them, with their alphabetical labels and their small neat rows. 31 years, he said without looking at Ivo. Yes, sir, Ivo said. 31 years, he said. How many people have brought you a solution without being asked to find one? Ivo thought about it honestly. He was not the kind of man to give an answer designed to please, and Dorian Veld had never been the kind of man to want one. 2, he said finally. That I can remember. Dorian Veld nodded. He adjusted his cuff. He walked back to the lift, pressed the button, and waited for it, with the same unhurried stillness with which he did everything, though Ivo noted, in the way he noted things he did not want to misremember, that the line of him was slightly different from the line he had arrived with. Not looser, settled. The way a man stands when he has just confirmed something he suspected but did not dare to count on. The lift came. The doors closed. Ivo turned back to the front desk. He had work to do, and he did it, and at the end of the day he rode the bus home the way he always did. The same route, the same seat, the evening light coming through the same windows. But he was thinking about the routing card, about the 3 days the firm had spent searching for something that was findable if you had simply written down the codes that the system had not to index. About the 6 weeks of a woman doing her work without anyone noticing what her work actually was. 2 people, in 31 years, brought a solution without being asked to find one. He was already revising that figure, on the bus home, and he thought he would be revising it for a while yet.